Greetings, everyone. In this third part of my podcast here, I'm going to talk about some of the odds and ends of the DC 52 relaunch. Things which I didn't pick up and why. Things where I may have wished I hadn't picked up and why. And things I picked up and I was pretty glad that I did. I'm going to start with The Flash. The Flash was a book I did not pick up. I heard a lot of good things about The Flash, namely that Francis Manapul was like one of the top-notch artists, of his generation. And I was curious to see what he would put out as an artist as well as, a writer. I've seen some, pictures here and there that he's done of the Legion and whatnot, and, they were pretty cool. I didn't have anything against them. But upon thumbing through the Flash comic, I didn't really have any complaints about it other than it just seemed so bland and so vanilla, which in some ways almost seems fitting given that it's Barry Allen. But yeah, I'm not going to rule it out that I might not get a trade later on. But as things stand now, there's nothing that really compels me to want to buy The Flash. OMAC. Now, people that remember OMAC or the one-man Army Corps from back in the day, knows that that's one of Jack Kirby's babies. First, I didn't follow OMAC back then. I think I had maybe one issue of this comic back then by sheer happenstance. So to know that he was going to be brought back, and that Keith Giffen was going to be the main guy instrumental in bringing him back, did nothing to make me want to check this book out. Because while Keith Giffen was someone whose skills I've always appreciated as a writer, in particular on Justice League of America, he was never somebody that I appreciated as an artist. He tended to draw, he tended to ape Kirby's style quite a bit. And the thing I found out with a lot of people that draw like Kirby, they think all it is you just, throw in some squiggly lines and blocky figures and you got yourself a good Kirby rendering. The best people that can ape Kirby's work, they can give you that definite feel that they've studied his work, but even then, usually what they miss out on is they pick up on Kirby's technique, but they don't pick up on Kirby's vision. And in my opinion, Keith Giffen never picked up on his vision. He only picked up on surface elements, and therefore, OMAC for me was just off the list. Now, one book that I did pick up that upon viewing it I wish I hadn't was Birds of Prey. Now, this is one of the DC 52 where it wasn't so much the writing threw me off, and it wasn't so much the art, because I've seen Jesus Sayers' work before on Brave and the Bold, and I've enjoyed it. And his work wasn't, his effort wasn't lacking on Birds of Prey either. But those god-awful costumes, I think those costumes as a whole, out of everything I've seen in the relaunch, the Birds of Prey costumes, I think, hands down, are the worst ones. And regardless of the quality of the artwork and perhaps the quality of the writing, I cannot get past the look. So Birds of Prey for me, in all likelihood, is a one and done. Animal Man. What I find really vexing about Animal Man is there seems to be this presumption, if not prediction, that Animal Man is going to tie in with Swamp Thing. And the thing that's messed up about that is I like Swamp Thing. I do not like Animal Man, which is nothing against Mr. Lemire, who I believe is probably turning in some very strong work. But the art is totally detracting from the story, in my opinion. Travel Foreman, who he reminds me of is if you took the late Michael Turner and put his consciousness inside the mind of Bill Sienkiewicz, and that's basically what you end up getting art-wise. It's very spastic. It's very I don't want to say out there, because out there might lend itself to having people thinking that, well, the stories are out there, so the art should be out there. But there should still be something inside the art that makes you want to, see more of it. And for me, it doesn't do that. I think it's really just ugly work. And I don't mean ugly in the sense of the subject matter. I'm talking about ugly in the sense of this artist's style, this artist's technique. I did buy the first 2 issues. I won't rule out getting the first arc just because I like to see things through in most cases. But definitely beyond that, I'm done with that comic. Green Lantern and anything Green Lantern related, I pretty much have no interest in, with the exception of Green Lantern Corps. Green Lantern and the New Guardians looks boring. The Green Lantern book itself, I get why it's supposed to be interesting, given that, Sinestro is, his mug is on the cover as a Green Lantern as opposed to Hal Jordan. But having thumbed through the issue, there was nothing there for me either. And as far as the Red Lanterns go, I like Atrocitus. I like Ed Benes' art. But I think, as I mentioned somewhere else, when I opened to the first page, and you got a house cat with a ring, which in and of itself I don't really have a problem with, but when said house cat has a 6-pack, when he has washboard abs, yeah, I don't think that's going to be a book I'm going to get. Maybe if that was Megaton Man or the Tick, maybe, but a Red Lantern book, I'm going to have to say pass on that as well. Stormwatch I had high hopes for. I wanted to see how Apollo and Midnighter were going to be integrated and woven into the DC mainstream. But then, when I finally got a chance to see the book and I opened it up, I was like, oh no, not this. First of all, I get that it's a relaunch, and then they're gonna have everybody in different costumes and whatnot. But nothing about those new suits came across to me like these were Stormwatch guys. When I first saw the initial blurb for Stormwatch, and you seen Apollo, I thought that was Hawksmoor. And then Midnighter himself looks like an atrocity. So and I wasn't impressed by the art at all either. So I pretty much had to say pass on that. But then again, I may pick up the first trade just to sate my curiosity. But in overall look, I thought it looked like a train wreck, so I kind of passed on it. Captain Atom looked boring. Firestorm didn't look much better, and they don't look like they know what they're doing with Blue Beetle. So all those books just went by the wayside. Aquaman. What can I say? With Aquaman, there's a lot of people that have been trying to trumpet the horn and saying how lame this character isn't, and that by this #1, Jeff Johns has proven that he isn't. I find myself in disagreement. And taking it down point by point, Aquaman jabbing a vehicle with his trident and then tossing that vehicle and having people say, see, he's not lame, see what he can do? Well, I already knew Aquaman was strong, so that wasn't an issue. You have Aquaman going into a seafood restaurant, and he's dining on some fish, which a lot of people found that to be, fairly humorous. I mean, it was all right, but it wasn't nothing was proven to me with that scene. He's a sea guy. Why wouldn't he eat seafood? We're land people. We eat land food, seafood, air food, anything else. So to think that he has a certain almost spiritual connection with the fish, nothing was proven to me there either. The only thing that was mildly interesting was seeing him bound away like the Hulk when he needed to make a hasty retreat. But other than that, to me, Aquaman is just as lame as he's always been. Given that Jeff Johns is writing him, I don't see that changing anytime too soon. All-Star Western. All-Star Western is a book I actually like. I didn't think I would because I'm not really that big into Westerns. But one of the few books that I ever bought back in the day that was a Western book was Jonah Hex. And seeing that Jonah Hex is the star of this book, I found it to be had a very Sherlock Holmes type feel to it, and I found it to be a very engaging read. I think the layering on of all the I reckon and all that stuff was a little bit too much, but given the time period, I get it. And I found the art isn't to my taste, but it marries well with the story. It's kind of a Will Eisner meets Joe Kubert type style, and for the foreseeable future, I think I will be sticking with this book. And finally, I, Vampire. I actually loathe the art on I, Vampire, because as I've stated on a number of other places, that I feel that this person doesn't do anything more than just photographs, pictures, and then does a little bit of Photoshop to the photographs and hands it into the editor and says, here you go. That said, I think the writing is so strong that I can get past the art issues that I have with this book. It's a very compelling story. It's definitely probably in my top 3 of everything that's come from the DC reboot. So this may be one of the rare comics that I will get in singles and perhaps also in trades, hoping that they put additional information in. But anyway, that completes my third part of this podcast, and until next time, night out.